This girl has just spent a passionate night with her boyfriend, and at dawn, she quietly slips away. Her identity as an assassin forces her to hide everything about herself because she fears that being with him puts him in danger. Her sole purpose now is to kill the one who murdered her entire family, and to achieve this, she is willing to face the mafia organization head-on. Her name is Cataleya, known as the Orchid Assassin, because after every kill, she paints an orchid on her victim's body. Cataleya's nightmare began many years ago when her father, Fabio, decided to pull the family out of the mafia world. He wanted to end his partnership with the drug lord Jesse. Unexpectedly, Jesse ordered a hit on Fabio's family because Fabio held all the evidence of Jesse's crimes. Fabio knew this time the odds were against them, so when he returned home, he gave his daughter a storage card containing evidence of Jesse's crimes. He also handed Cataleya a business card from a US diplomat and instructed her to contact them if anything happened to her. To ensure her safety, Fabio gave Cataleya the address of her uncle. At that moment, assassins stormed in to attack Fabio's family. At the time, Cataleya was only 10 years old, witnessing her parents being murdered right before her eyes. She sat in complete silence, knowing all too well that to survive, she could not show fear. Jesse's henchman, Marco, approached her, aiming a gun directly at her head. Just one bullet would end her life. Yet, in the face of Marco's threat, Cataleya remained frighteningly calm. In the next instant, she pulled a knife from under the table and stabbed his hand. Cataleya told him she would kill him one day. Taking advantage of her small frame, she skillfully leapt through the bathroom window. The assassin fired relentlessly from above. The assassins didn't give up, chasing her through the alleyways on motorcycles. She ran for her, and thanks to her agility, she managed to temporarily shake them off. Just when it seemed she might escape safely, the killers appeared again. As they were about to open fire, Cataleya quickly slipped into a sewer opening. The drain was too narrow for them to follow, leaving the assassins furious as they fired into it in frustration. It seemed Cataleya would perish under that hail of bullets, but she crawled to the other end of the sewer, lifted the cover, and successfully escaped the pursuit. The first thing she did was run to the U.S. consulate and hand over the business card her father had given her. She was then taken inside and received by an American agent. Once she confirmed no one was around, Cataleya reached into her throat and vomited up the food she had swallowed earlier. Inside, she found the memory card and handed it to the waiting agent. He immediately wiped the memory card clean with a tissue, then inserted it into his computer to check. What he saw left him stunned. It was filled with evidence of the underworld's crimes. The agent's tension was unmistakable. He quickly ordered his subordinate to leave, then turned to Cataleya and asked if she knew what this was. Cataleya,
"Where's your papa?"
Dead.
Thanks to that belief, she was escorted by the U.S. Embassy all the way to Miami. The U.S. government quickly issued her a protective passport and gave her a sum of cash. Even so, Cataleya didn't trust the Americans. Remembering her father's warning, she pretended to have a stomachache to ask for the restroom, then slipped out through the window. After 10 minutes without seeing her, the agent went to check, but it was too late. By then, Cataleya was already boarding a series of trains and buses bound for Chicago, where her father had told her she would find her uncle. At last, Cataleya arrived and handed the slip of paper with an address to the gatekeeper. Upon seeing the name, he hurried to inform his boss, who was also Cataleya's uncle. At that moment, Emilio was punishing a traitor and paid little attention to the gatekeeper's words. Only when he heard Cataleya's name did Emilio stop and rush back inside. When she finally met her uncle, Cataleya could no longer hold back and burst into tears in Emilio's arms. After days of tense escape, it was only in the presence of family that she could finally let her guard down. Having lost a child himself, Emilio loved Cataleya as his own and was determined to protect his niece at all costs. The next day, Emilio asked Cataleya about her dreams,
"Not anymore?"
and she firmly declared she wanted to become an assassin.
I want to be a killer.
Only then could she avenge her father. Her answer left Emilio stunned, as he knew all too well the price of a criminal life.
Can you help?
Even so, he didn't refuse her request, but for now he insisted she go to school. Emilio bribed the principal to have Cataleya enroll, but she refused,
What is now?
insisting she only wanted him to train her as a killer. Emilio grew angry at his niece's stubbornness. Right after that, he pulled out his gun and fired wildly at the surrounding park to scare Emilio told her she could become an assassin anytime she wanted, but first, she had to go to school. In this line of work, strength alone would only get her killed sooner or later. Emilio admitted he had no education, and that was his weakness, one he didn't want Cataleya to repeat. Holding a school bag in one hand and a gun in the other, Emilio demanded she choose between the two. Cataleya immediately understood. From that day on, the school gained a new young prodigy. Many years later, one afternoon, two male police officers were having lunch when a car suddenly ran head-on into theirs. The driver, a drunken woman, staggered out, unable to speak clearly. The officers immediately drew their guns, restrained her, and handcuffed her. No one realized that the woman was actually Cataleya in disguise, using the ruse to get close to her target. She was taken to the station, where police held her in temporary custody since they couldn't take her statement while she was intoxicated. Her real target was a criminal currently locked up in prison. This man was aggressive and arrogant, chewing gum and sticking it right onto a guard's uniform, showing complete disregard for the police. Once the warden had everything arranged, he locked down the prison, leaving only one guard outside. A female officer handed Cataleya a cup of coffee, supposedly to sober her up. The moment the officer turned her back, Cataleya sprang to her feet, instantly alert. Her performance had been flawless. She then removed her wig, tied her hair neatly, and changed into the black. Cataleya unlocked the cell door. Once outside, she checked the security cameras and carefully adjusted their angles to avoid detection. Next, Cataleya grabbed a spoon and headed toward the now empty guard station. She took a bottle of mineral water, then slipped into the adjacent power distribution room. Then drilled a small hole in the cup and placed it on the power switch. She set it up to cut the electricity at a specific time, then crawled into the ventilation shaft. As water dripped into the spoon, by the time the officers were busy fixing the power, she had already arrived at the opposite side. Cataleya managed to slip into the men's restroom, only to find a male officer inside, not giving him a chance to react. She then quietly trailed behind a guard to slip past the surveillance cameras unnoticed. At last, Cataleya successfully made her way into the male prisoner cell block. She then drew the gun from her side and unlocked the male prisoner's cell, quietly moving in on her target. Moments later, the man was dead under Cataleya's gun. The gunshot instantly drew the attention of the guards, but by the time they arrived, the assassin had vanished, leaving only a bewildered guard standing there. The prisoner showed no signs of life, but on his chest was a familiar mark, Cataleya's signature emblem. She slipped away through the ventilation shaft, emerging skillfully onto the rooftop. Despite a thorough search by the police, no trace of her was found. Moving silently, Cataleya blended into the shadows in her black outfit. Even when she was only a short distance from a guard, he still didn't notice her. Eventually, she slipped into another vent and escaped just before an inspection began. The next morning, she signed her release papers and left the station like an innocent citizen. Outside, Cataleya removed her gloves, leaving no trace behind. The police chief concluded that this was the 22nd case bearing the same signature mark. Each victim had a distinctive mark left on their chest. The police chief realized the assassin might be sending a message but not to the police. Who then was the true recipient? To find out, he ordered the case to be published in the newspapers to lure the killer into making a mistake. The moment the news broke, it caused a public uproar. A CIA agent brought the paper to meet drug lord Jesse in the U.S. Jesse, now retired from crime, was under CIA protection as a high-value asset. The mark on the victim's chest was the exclusive signature of Fabio, and Jesse immediately realized the assassin was Fabio's daughter. Her appearance threatened to expose the CIA's shady dealings, so they ordered Cataleya's elimination to protect their interests. Jesse was furious that his men had failed to wipe out Fabio's family years ago. Now Cataleya was using the mark to send a long-distance message directly to him. Jesse immediately ordered his subordinates to redeem themselves if they couldn't kill Cataleya. They wouldn't live either. Elsewhere, Emilio assigned Cataleya a new target, a fat man who had swindled $50 billion through an investment fund. He was now living in a luxurious mansion, enjoying a lavish lifestyle. Upon receiving the mission, Cataleya immediately took action, diving into the swimming pool to approach the target's room. After ensuring the coast was clear, she surfaced and attached a silencer to her gun before heading running toward the bedroom. Just as she was about to pull the trigger, she realized there were 4 other women on the bed. Cataleya decided to kill them all to avoid leaving any witnesses. The fat man awoke to the sound of gunfire and noticed a strange mark on his body. Stepping outside, he saw all his bodyguards lying dead and quickly grabbed a gun to flee. Reaching the middle of the pool, he scanned his surroundings only to find Cataleya standing right behind him. Without hesitation, she fired 2 shots into him. Dropping to his knees, he begged for his life, offering to pay double whatever she was being paid to kill him, but Cataleya remained unmoved. Once the mark was drawn, Cataleya never spared anyone. Her final shot sent the fat man tumbling into the pool. Victim number 23 was dead, yet the police still had no leads. While the police chief was at a loss, a janitor mentioned the name of the flower Cataleya, a rare orchid that only grows in Colombia. The sheriff looked up the information, but all related data was lost. He called the CIA for access, only to have them hang up, citing national security. Meanwhile, Jesse's subordinate was frantically searching for Cataleya everywhere. Unaware, she was walking straight into danger. As usual, she went to her boyfriend's place, a painter, to rest. To protect her identity, Cataleya only met him in private. To him, she had been an unsolvable mystery for the past 6 months. Each time Cataleya spent the night at her boyfriend's place, she would quietly leave before dawn. But her latest mission had left her exhausted, and this time she slept through the night. Seeing her fast asleep, boyfriend secretly took a photo to remember the moment. When she woke up, Cataleya panicked at having overslept and rushed off. She went to meet Emilio, her uncle, who had been waiting for her. The moment they met, Emilio handed her a newspaper reporting that 8 Colombians had been killed overnight. Cataleya instantly knew Jesse had tracked her down. However, this was exactly what she had been waiting for, a chance to take her revenge. For Cataleya's safety, Emilio decided not to take on any more jobs. He urged her to stop before it was too late, reminding her that she was all he had left. Seeing a family photo, Cataleya broke down in tears. Yet her uncle's warning didn't deter her. It only fueled her determination to act. At the same time, Cataleya's boyfriend proudly showed her photo to his friends during a casual gathering. One of his friends offered to help him look into his mysterious girlfriend and sent Cataleya's photo to an acquaintance at police station. Once the image was uploaded, it immediately caught the sheriff's attention. They recognized her as the woman who had once been detained for public intoxication. The police, who were investigating a prison assassination, suspected that woman's involvement. With Cataleya's record in the system completely blank, they had been unable to confirm her identity until this photo provided a crucial lead. They confirmed that the woman in the photo was indeed the drunk detainee from that night. The police immediately traced the phone that had sent Cataleya's picture. Unaware of any of this, Cataleya went to her uncle's house seeking safety. But as she stepped inside, the heartbreaking scene froze her in place. Both her beloved grandmother and uncle had been brutally murdered. It was clear they had been tortured by Jesse's men, yet they refused to reveal anything that could harm her. Overwhelmed with grief, Cataleya cradled her uncle's body, tears streaming down her face in pure hatred. She vowed to kill Jesse with her own hands. That night, as the sheriff returned home, he found Cataleya waiting for him, holding him at gunpoint. She forced him into a chair and revealed she had planted a motion-triggered bomb. If he moved, the entire house would explode. Her only goal was to find Jesse's whereabouts. Convinced the sheriff was the only one who knew, but he bluntly told her that all information was under the CIA's strict control, and even he had no access to it. However, Cataleya knew this all too well. She threatened the sheriff through his family, forcing him to cooperate unconditionally. Knowing she would carry out her threats, the sheriff reluctantly agreed. The next morning, he met with a CIA agent to probe Jesse's whereabouts. From a distance, Cataleya lay in wait with a sniper rifle aimed directly at the agent. Even so, he refused to talk, confident that his bulletproof glass would keep him safe. The sheriff quickly stepped aside, allowing the bullet to strike a warning shot that terrified the agent. He immediately spilled the information Cataleya wanted. Once she learned Jesse's location, Cataleya began preparing her revenge. She loaded her guns with ammunition, stacked weapons into a truck, and noticed her 2 large dogs in their cage. Seemingly sensing they would soon part from their owner, their reaction sparked a brilliant plan in her mind. Meanwhile, Jesse had rigged his mansion with traps and stationed guards, ready for Cataleya's arrival. But they still underestimated Cataleya, never expecting her to launch a direct assault. A sudden cannon shot blasted into Jesse's mansion, blowing apart its front facade. The villa was left in ruins, and Jesse, injured, was rushed away by his men. Just as they prepared to retreat, Cataleya ran the truck straight through them. She jumped out and unleashed a relentless hail of gunfire. Jesse's men quickly hid him in a corner before charging out to engage in a shootout. Though fighting alone, Cataleya never lost the upper hand. Skillfully wielding 2 guns, she forced the enemy to split into 2 directions, mowing them down one after another and causing heavy casualties. Once her magazines were empty, she switched to a handgun. The enemy began to counterattack, but they too had run out of ammunition. Knowing he had no way out, Marka decided to go all in. Following his trail, Cataleya quickly found him, only to discover he was also a highly skilled assassin. Two engaged in a fierce hand-to-hand fight. Killing him instantly. Meanwhile, Jesse was still hiding in the shadows. Hearing the silence outside, he made a run for it, quietly heading to the parking lot and climbing into Cataleya's own car to escape. Believing he had gotten away, Jesse cheerfully drove out of the mansion, feeling relieved. Before he could go far, his phone rang. It was Cataleya. He stubbornly denied his crimes and even threatened to take revenge on her. What he didn't know was that 2 large dogs were staring at him from the back seat. The dogs immediately attacked Jesse. The dogs tore into Jesse with ferocious force, leaving him no time to react as the car shook violently. Moments later, everything went still. Jesse was dead, consumed by fear and pain. Cataleya had finally avenged her family, but now she was utterly alone, with no relatives left. Suddenly, she thought of her boyfriend and decided to call him to say goodbye. Perhaps she was meant for a solitary life. Cataleya didn't want to see anyone else die because of her. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.